Hey guys, you know it was only a matter of time before Terminator 2 became a reality. Well, thankfully I'm not talking about Judgment Day, but rather the T-1000, the liquid metal robot played by Robert Patrick. It's real. Now, director James Cameron set the bar pretty damn high as far as how cool a shape-shifting liquid metal robot can be. So make sure to stay until the end of the video to see how close our expectations match reality. But before we get to the meat of the topic, I do want to point out my newly launched Patreon linked in the description below, where you guys can get exclusive content in exchange for your extra support here. Now, the initial goal is to get 100 patrons, and once we do that, I'm going to do a cool raffle drawing, giving away one of these movies in the bookcase back here. Winner gets to decide, as well as 2 other items, all retailing for over $100, so it'll be a cool little gift basket. So once we hit that goal, we'll do the raffle, which you could be a part of for as little as $5 and get over $100 worth of stuff, which is going to be really cool. And you'll be directly supporting and making the 80s and 90s great again. As far as the T-1000 and Terminator 2 goes, researchers were actually more inspired by sea cucumbers rather than James Cameron's blockbuster film. At least that's what's been reported. I mean, no scientist probably wants to go on record saying he or she was inspired by a robot sent back in time to assassinate a rebellious young teen before he had the chance to lead humanity against a mechanical uprising. They just wouldn't. It'd be like, dude, whose side are you on anyway? Now, of course, the concept of a liquid metal robot has been around since the release of Terminator 2 in 1991 and left audiences in awe. But who would have ever thought the groundbreaking visual effects that brought the T-1000 to life on celluloid would ever become a reality in the real world? As far as how they created the robot in the film, it's really covered in depth in this Ultimate Edition DVD little booklet that came with that set. I really gotta upgrade to the 4K version of Terminator 2, by the way. But I'm gonna share some cool stuff with you that's in this booklet here. And I'm going to do it in a cool robot voice.
It was Industrial Light and Magic and Stan Winston Studios that had the greatest challenge to bring to life the T-1000 through a seamless blend of Robert Patrick's performance, computer graphics imagery, and a slew of mechanical prosthetics and articulated puppets. With the successful realization of the character so integral to the story, both companies were hired early so that they could coordinate their efforts with the production. Much of the shooting schedule was influenced by the effects work, designed to accommodate the computer graphics shot first in order to give ILM the necessary lead time to do the T-1000 shots. Under the effects supervision of multiple Oscar winner Dennis Muren, ILM created computer-generated images and utilized digital image processing techniques to create the morphing effects of the T-1000, using the combined talents of dozens of animators, computer scientists, artists, and technicians, working for more than half a year. Their tools included over 30 Silicon Graphics computers using proprietary software developed by ILM for the production, as well as several Apple Macintosh computers and a cyberware digitization system, which could scan the actors' faces with a laser to produce three-dimensional data so that they could be manipulated in the computer. The live-action footage was scanned into the computer frame by frame at high resolution, then augmented with wholly computer-generated objects. The T-1000's chrome forms were modeled and animated in 3 dimensions based on motion studies of the real actor and were carefully matched for position, motion, and lighting to the scenes in which they appeared, right down to having the correct reflections of their surroundings. Some shots required hand-painted animation and frame-by-frame touch-up in the computer, and many of them employed software that allowed the animator to spatially distort live action and computer-generated imagery.
Wow, it's insane how much work goes into these movies, but that's why we still talk about it 30 years later.
Blending in seamlessly with the computer graphic shots were hundreds of mechanical, prosthetic, makeup, and puppet effects designed and created by Stan Winston and his team of artists, sculptors, technicians, and puppeteers. To realize on set the T-1000's liquid metal and shape-changing abilities, Winston built numerous articulated prosthetic pieces which were attached to actor Robert Patrick, including arms and fingers transformed into spikes, hooks, and blades. For the T-1000's bullet wounds, Winston's teams created a series of rubber shotgun shirts with spring-loaded mechanisms consuming pieces of chrome foam rubber that would snap open instantaneously to create the illusion that a chrome hole had suddenly appeared. Winston also devised several wholly articulated puppets to show the T-1000's head and body blown apart during the course of the film. These articulated puppets, with such nicknames as Sauce Head, Donut Head, and Pretzel Man, were brought to life by the joystick cable controllers, external rod actuators, and radio control devices, and had to perform on set, interacting with and often matching the performances of the real actors.
Oh, they could probably make something much easier now that they do have these liquid robots. They could just have one on set and shoot the movie maybe, right? There are currently 2 approaches to developing robots. There are the strong and agile robots made from rigid materials like metal or carbon fiber, and there are bots made from softer, malleable materials. These robots sacrifice strength for the ability to squeeze and wiggle their way into tiny places, but this newly developed Robert Patrick model of robot takes the best of both worlds approach, which, as mentioned, was inspired by sea cucumbers, whose squishy bodies can easily squeeze through narrow places and then go rigid in mere seconds, using enzymes that cause their protein fibers to bind together. But how do the robots do it? Well, the team that developed them uses a metal called gallium, which at sea levels melts just before its temperature hits 30 degrees Celsius. In other words, its melting point is high enough to stay solid in the typical room, yet low enough to melt in the palm of your hand. I bet that'd make for a pretty weird handshake, by the way. In order for the scientists to get this robot to shapeshift on command, they need to get the gallium to melt whenever they want. The team controls its temperature by exposing it to a magnetic field that keeps flip-flopping the direction it's pointing. While exposed to this magnetic field, the temperature inside the robot becomes hot enough for it to melt and stay liquid. It's called magno-active liquid solid phase transitional matter, or MPTM for short. Instead of requiring an external source of heat to shapeshift and morph the robot, the magnetic field causes the robot to generate its own heat through induction. The scientists can then push or pull it into whatever direction they want it to go and whatever shape they want it to be in. When they want it to be solid, they just turn the field off and wait for the metal to cool back down. In a cool showcase, the scientists recreated a cool part of the hospital shootout scene from Terminator 2. Well, I'll be honest, when I first heard about the liquid robot, my expectations were pretty high, but after seeing it in action, it's, I guess the good news is that these liquid robots pose no imminent threat to humanity. In fact, this new robot will likely save lives. Scientists are already exploring how these robots could be used within a biomedical context. Of course, every technology has unfortunately been weaponized in some way. But as far as being attacked by robots, it's really artificial intelligence that we probably have to worry about. In fact, James Cameron even spoke about AI when referencing the potential of rebooting the Terminator franchise, stating that he'll make it more about AI rather than robots gone crazy. Overall, this liquid robot in its current state is a far cry from the liquid metal robots that Hollywood visual effects artists have created. But it is fascinating how quickly researchers have already caught up to what was once just someone's imagination and wild speculation about the future of robots. What else has James Cameron been right about? Well, Avatar 2, as that has just been killing it at the box office. So far, it's grossed $2.117 billion globally and became the fourth highest grossing movie in history. It only ranks behind the original Avatar, Avengers Endgame, and Titanic. James Cameron has literally directed 3 of the 4 highest grossing films in the world. The man clearly has the Midas touch. And I think the only hope for humanity to ever have another great Terminator film again is if he rebooted the franchise and directed it himself. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see the Terminator franchise rebooted, and make sure to check out that Patreon linked in the description below for exclusive content and a chance at that raffle drawing.